All right, my next and last speaker of the evening is Paul Sizer. He has been drawing since he is 5 years old and is showing definite signs of improvement. He has run Sizer Design and Illustration as a freelance business for 17 years in Kalamazoo and self-publishes his creator-owned and created graphic novels under the Cafe Digital Studios imprint. He works with clients all over the world and is currently designing the next album for 80s music star Thomas Dolby. Please welcome Paul Sizer.
All right, we're gonna see, this is where the weird stuff's gonna happen. Okay, so let's start out with this equation here. Design plus illustration equals something more powerful than either one alone. Now, I was always kind of taught these things separately in school, but secretly, I always really wanted them to always be together. And it was definitely for selfish reasons because I really wanted to cover my own bases. So, you know, when I started doing comics, I brought graphic design along as part of the comics. And comics were where I first learned about the power of combining words and pictures and how that combination made a hybrid form that was more powerful than the individual components. And it also told me to shut up and let the images do their work. Now, comics taught me a different kind of storytelling that was more interactive because it demanded that the reader bring more to the table and to the story. Now, comics could tell any kind of story and to any kind of an audience, regardless of whether you could read the languages written in. And it was truly an international art form and gave me a lot of ideas. So comics could also combine well with other mediums, and they could immerse themselves in connections with online content, music, backstory, and commentary. In my graphic novel, BPM, I provided mixes on iTunes for each of the DJs in the book based on their own personal styles. But ultimately, the content had to work on its own without any gizmos, and it had to impact the reader and be immediate. Now, sometimes design and illustrations fulfills expected roles, and that's not a bad thing, but it does mean that we have to still use care and craft and discipline in the creation of those kind of graphics, and when it's done skillfully, it can be amazing and it can engage an audience with humor and wit and satire. So for me, music and design have always been very powerful allies. My musical collection techniques always involved buying albums that looked good and sounded good. And design led me to music that I never would have found otherwise. And sometimes it led me to really horrible music, but my success ratio seemed to justify the risk. So I also found a great deal of power in iconic styles. And they had a common visual strength that an audience could tap into and bring along their own narrative. Propaganda posters in particular always resonated with me, whether for the use of positive or negative ideas. But just to put your mind at ease, I have sworn only to use design for good and never evil. So design works best when it's given a task, just like a border collie. And so as I got better and better design tools, I wanted to use them in bigger and bigger venues. So comic book writer Warren Ellis runs one of the most energetic forums on the internet called Whitechapel. And he rules it with an iron fist, but he also demands creativity and discourse on the site to be cutting edge and dynamic. So he does a weekly thing called the Remake Remodel Challenge, where he tasks creators to take outdated and tired concepts and recreate them in a way that a new audience might actually be interested in. The more unlikely and obtuse the solution, the better the results. And pushing ideas for the sheer purpose of seeing when they would break was a lot of fun. And being fearless about questioning everything during the conceptual process is always essential. I usually know I can pull out a solution, but the thrill of not knowing is energizing as well. And making your audience question how you solve the problem is another way to keep them involved, actually. So combining what the past has to offer with what the future is one way of solving a design problem. But the opposite, enhancing the future with what the past has to offer, is also equally valid. And those who do not learn from the past tend to use a lot of clip art. That's not judgmental. And I also work to be bolder in my designs and my solutions. And if a venue doesn't exist for what I want to say, I can always create one. And the immediacy of internet content and good design are good visual partners. So, my latest design challenge is doing design work for a musical hero of mine. Tom Stolby, who made the song She Blinded Me with Science in the 80s, was a huge part of my college life, and evidence exists Exhibit A, there's Thomas Dolby and me next to one another. It's kind of scary, actually. So, yeah. So once again, the level playing field of the internet allowed me to come in contact with Dolby. A t-shirt contest on the site gave me a lead-in, and upon winning, I got an email from Dolby himself asking if I'd be interested in doing more design work for him. And it's here we're going to insert the cartoon head exploding sound effect. My challenge, however, was how to focus my geeky enthusiasm and energy into the project, but still put all the concepts and design decisions through the rigor of good design and typography. And it was tough. It was really tough. So this is the first single from the upcoming album called Archon. And yeah, I was in geek heaven. Now, as we worked together further, we began building an infrastructure, him with musical themes and me with symbols, marks, form, and type. Now, with Dolby living in the UK, technology allowed me to collaborate in ways I never could before. The scene on this front album here, I art directed live in real time via Skype in the UK. Now, for someone who never thought he would ever meet his musical hero, here I was telling him how to dress and what concrete block to stand on. It was very, very surreal, to say the least. And I currently have his home phone number above my desk. How cool is that? But Dolby wanted to take things one step further. That was great. He wanted to make an online game that was based on the narrative of his songs for his upcoming album as a way to reward his longtime fans and to introduce himself to new fans. So together, Thomas and me and a crack team of game developers from around the world made Floating City. It's a free browser-based game that uses Google Maps interface for the main gameplay, which meant I had the responsibility of designing all the signage with identity systems for all the 9 tribes in the game, along with all the interfaces, maps, tools that the players would use. And our dev team that was spread around the globe would have daily meetings via Skype, which were called scrums, like in rugby, and sometimes they were that organized. So, the Floating City launched about a month ago, and it's thriving. Dolby just did a presentation on the game at the TED Edinburgh conference, and I'm currently working on the final design for his new album that's out this fall. So design plus illustration plus concept plus questioning plus new tech plus old school equals things that I could never imagine doing before now. Thanks.